What is going on, tribe, and Merry Christmas. It is today, Boxing Day in the UK, the day in which everybody partakes in boxing tournaments and beats up on YouTubers. Now, that's not what Boxing Day is really about. There is absolutely zero boxing on Boxing Day. It's for boxes. It's to give gifts, okay? My gift to you is not a whole lot, truth be told, but I am going to do a video. I thought it would be nice, seeing as though we are at the end of the year now, if maybe we do a retrospective. 2025, what did we do? How was it? Was it good? Was it bad? The highs and the lows. I thought it was a pretty good year overall. But let's refresh our memories. Nearly 12 months ago now, we started off 2025 with the era of the cavalry. CG had recently sort of released this era system, kind of in its infancy, not quite to the same state it is currently, but one of the early eras was the era of the cavalry, which is the new Bad Batch, ladies and gentlemen. New Bad Batch, Omega Fugitive, Wrecker Mercenary, Hunter Mercenary, Batcher, and of course the really cool Crosshair Scarred. The team itself, it wasn't greeted with a whole lot of enthusiasm from what I remember, and I think that's mostly because nobody was really asking for new Bad Batch. People were kind of a little bit confused coming off the end of 2024 when we had things like Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano come to the game. People were thinking maybe we're going to be start veering off towards a new GL Thrawn, something like that. Some people was me, I was wrong. What else is new? It happens all the time. I'm fine with it. But generally speaking, when we came into the new year, everybody was expecting a little bit of something special, and we started off with another Bad Batch team. People were kind of confused, and CG missed the ball. They dropped the ball for this one because they said we were going to be getting some sort of event or legendary unit that was supposed to go with the new Bad Batch, and it just never happened. They missed it. They couldn't quite make the production in time. So Bad Batch dropped, and whilst they were an okay team, nobody got really excited about it. So I think this was like one of the lowest parts of the year, was the new Bad Batch coming into the game. Now, I do want to put a positive spin on this. The new Bad Batch is actually a really strong PvP team. They are very, very good. You just have to know how to play them, and they're a very nuanced team. They take a lot of understanding of how the kits work, and generally speaking, you quite often drop Batcher out and you bring in OG Omega to get lots of target practice and stuff like that. But they were taking down GLs and all that sort of good business, and of course later on they came into the raid. We'll get to the raid in a later section, but they were a bit of a contentious team when it come to the raid as well, because first tier was everything was fine, but then later tiers, they were just so hamstrung by the mechanics of the raid, the way that, you basically couldn't really use them very well unless you are at Relic 9 for them. There's a reason why I've got them at Relic 8 and I don't even use them. Even though you can clear it at Relic 8, it's just a really, really tricky team to get running. Requires very specific modding. Most people just want to go into this raid and have an easy time and get high scores. So Bad Batch kind of flopped a little bit there. That being said, like I said, they are a very, very strong PvP team. So they're actually pretty fun. I think this is a team that people will eventually grow into. After that, we did actually have a bit of a banger of a period. Bad Batch were left, and we had the announcement 9 months ago that we were going into the era of the Revenge of the Sith. This was an absolute massive hit for CG. They announced so much cool stuff. Dark Side clones were going to be lifting Lord Vader. We were going to be getting a new raid. It was all going to be very, very fun. And of course, Revenge of the Sith is one of the most enjoyed parts of the prequel trilogy. Probably the most enjoyed film for a lot of people that play this game. People love Revenge of the Sith, so this was an absolutely huge hit. I think the only downside where they kind of failed here was a little bit was that the Dark Side clone troopers that they actually released and then later on the Jedi Vanguard were maybe not like who you would expect to be with Lord Vader. Yes, we also had the rework of Tarkin, and the rework of Tarkin was really, really good, giving him that 3v3 Omicron, really, really solid unit. But when you got stuff like Apo is fine, but CX2 was a Bad Batch thing, and that was kind of like, people didn't quite mesh with the whole Bad Batch Season 3 stuff. Disguised Clone Trooper, most people weren't even aware of this dude. And then Scorch. And there's nothing wrong with Scorch as a character, great character, Delta Squadron and all that. sort of thing, but people weren't expecting necessarily these 3 clones to be the new lifters. They were probably expecting more of the 501st clones to come in as just dark side variants of them rather than what we got. All in all though, people were super stoked for this because everybody, there's a reason people call him Lord Failure. Unfortunately, still to this day, he's still considered to be a little bit of a failure. He's still a very good galactic legend, don't get me wrong. We like to poke fun at poor Mr. Lord Vader simply because, you know, he's been beaten by so many off-meta teams over the years, just like every other GL. It's great. Anyway, Tarkin's rework, top-notch. New kits, really good. Did a lot of good work towards elevating sort of Lord Vader from where he was with Maul and the Empire setup, which was always a little bit funky, right? It was a little bit weird. So this was hugely successful. Of course, this did come with an announcement of the new raid. Now, the new raid, the Order 66 raid, was a massive bit of contention as well. On the one hand, we had this scenario where brand new raid coming in for Revenge of the Sith. People were excited, but on the other hand, we had so much confusion. There was a lot of confusion. That was probably a running theme for 2025, a lot of confusion. Why are we playing as Darkside clones with Tarkin, who wasn't even there, to my knowledge, assaulting the Jedi Temple, but we're not assaulting the Jedi, we are trying to stop Lord Vader? It just didn't make any sense, and for some reason the Bad Batch were there, and then later Pirates come on, and Pirates was a whole kettle of fish on its own. So there was a lot of confusion around that. Ultimately, the way they went about this new raid was very good. The mechanics that they put into it were a little bit maybe simplistic. It wasn't as in-depth as, say, like the Battle for Naboo raid, but on the plus side, the Order 66 raid had this massive benefit of being incredibly quick to run through. Very few teams require any like important degree of RNG to go through and get your run in for max scores. So coming off of Naboo, it was a breath of fresh air. The only downsides, of course, were the confusion around why are we using new Bad Batch and Tarkin with clones to take down Lord Vader? That doesn't make any sense. That was a little bit weird, right? But loads of undermans, good rewards, quick and easy to get through. Very happy with that. Before we go on to the second half of the era of the Revenge of the Sith, where we go into the Jedi Vanguard and Mace, I do want to touch on very briefly what I believe was the very first era battle that we had, which was the Nightfall era battle. This introduced a brand new system to the game that, in my opinion, was a huge positive. All right, it was a huge positive. Now, obviously, we as a collective, we do like to have a little bit of a moan and a little bit of gripe around anything that's new and different, right? So the Nightfall era battle came into the game and people were moaning because we couldn't basically beat it. It was very difficult. We had a lone Lord Vader, which made sense if you think about it, because a lot of people don't have Lord Vader. The game is played by like 300, 400,000 people, and a lot of them don't have Lord Vader unlocked. So for them to engage with this new era battle, they need to have a lone Lord Vader, or, you know, not use him at all. But whatever. CG let us do it. I thought it was a cool idea. The problem was, we couldn't even beat the tiers. You know, there were rewards that we couldn't get because we only had one unit out of the 4 units that we needed, and it was very tricky. I did eventually manage to beat the final tier of that Nightfall era battle with just 2 characters, which was Apo and CX2, I think, were the first 2 units. I think it was just those 2. Managed to 3-star all of them, which was really great, but a lot of people missed out there. Era battles in themselves as an introduction were really positive, because it gave early game players or free-to-play players an opportunity to earn free shards on a recurring basis of brand new marquees, and if you just happen to be a guy that maybe spent some crystals to get your marquees up to 4 stars or 5 stars, you could earn even more free shards. If you even got them to 7 stars and invested them in relic levels and stuff like that, you could get recurring rewards. It is a cool system, and when they come back, it is very nice, because they give you some top tier rewards if you've got all of the investment. And truth be told, Darkside clones, getting them to Relic 9, gave you 2 teams within the new raid at max score. Granted, the Darkside clone trio, not a fun team to use. I don't use it anymore, I don't bother. I don't need it anymore, truth be told. But it was just like, the Darkside clones was such a really good return on investment. Great for the raid. Era battles, good for Lord Vader. it all came full circle. We got a 3v3 team, well, we got two 3v3 teams and a Lord Vader lifter and raids performance and era battles. It was just bellissimo. And then, of course, we had the second half of the era of the Revenge of the Sith, which was Depa Billaba and Temple Guard. These guys finished off the 6 marquees for that era and ended up with Jedi Master Mace Windu. Now, Jedi Master Mace Windu, little bit of a flop. Nice animations, the world's largest sleeves. You could literally hide an entire Star Destroyer in Mace Windu's sleeves, I think. He has got the biggest sleeves in the world. Unfortunately, when it came to his application within the game, he just did. It wasn't that he was bad, he just didn't do anything that was kind of fun. And it was a really strange concept that we had this Jedi Master Mace Windu who was designed around this system of investigation and revealing, but you can't reveal the Sith, which is what I get is thematic, right? I get it's thematic in that in Revenge of the Sith, they couldn't identify the underlying Sith threat, which is what led to the end of the Republic and all that sort of thing. But, like, Jedi already get stomped on by Sith in general. Did we really have to lean into that? We would have thought that Mace in particular would have been good versus Sith. It would have made a nice change, and instead he just doesn't do a whole lot of anything. He can, but it's not like he's punching up and taking down GLs. Even I've got all 3 of his Territory War Omicrons, and I don't think I ever use him. Which is really depressing. Now, obviously, it wasn't just Mace. We had Depa. Depa was great. She's just really, really good with Mace in particular, and the same can be said for Temple Guard. Combined, all very, very powerful, and we did get a really good rework for Ayla Secura. The only downside to Ayla's kit is, of course, that she only really is good with Jedi Master Mace Windu. The rework that she got was very good, very powerful, made her a lot tankier, made her much more of a threat, but it only applies if she's with Mace. So that was a little bit of a downside, and I guess we could count Jocasta Nu, the Conquest unit, as another bonus here. Now, on the whole, Jocasta Nu, very bugged. She's caused no end of trouble with the raid, with the Nightfall era battle, as you know, and in PvP in general, where she just turns into a Jocasta Nuke over here, just constantly throwing out her gun and blowing up the board. But again, the whole Jedi Vanguard faction just kind of felt a bit naff. The only place they really shine is the raid and TB. In TB, I don't even have Depa's TB Omicron, but they still full auto everything, basically. They're a really good TB team, if that matters to you in the slightest. I know a lot of people are just not that fussed about, Rise of the Empire TB, but where you can find use out of them, it's great. It's just, a lot of people like PvP performance, and they just didn't really hit the mark. So it kind of, after that peak of Darkside clones, we kind of pitted off. And I'm sorry to say that it kind of went all downhill from there. Next up, of course, was the infamous era of piracy. This one really confused people. Again, like I said, there was a lot of confusion this year around what is the direction of the game? Why are we doing these units? I still firmly believe, and I am probably wrong, but I still firmly believe that we weren't supposed to have era of piracy. I think we were supposed to have stuff for the Acolyte, but because of the poor reception of the Acolyte TV show, they scrapped basically everything apart from the Stranger. Okay, and we see the Stranger is now the active Conquest unit, right? I feel like piracy was actually shoehorned in. I think they were eventually going to do it, but I think it wasn't actually their plan A. They had to pivot, and I have absolutely nothing to back this up. It just feels like that's the case, do you know what I mean? So yeah, era of piracy dropped and people were like, pirates? Who on earth is Captain Athano? Who's Quiggold? Who's Kix? Who's Brutus? Well, now we kind of know Brutus from Skeleton Crew, right? But it was just kind of like, we're getting these people that we saw for all of 6.5 seconds in the Force Awakens, in Athano and Quiggold. Like, don't get me wrong. The pirates themselves are actually a phenomenally good team. Both of them, all of them. The pirate faction is like one of the best designed factions I think that CG has done in a long time. They are so fun, really powerful, great kits to use. The problem was nobody cares about them. That was the weird thing. And I do firmly believe that they also messed up the timing of the conquest units, because we started off with the SME conquest unit, right? But that was after we had the Jocasta new conquest unit. We had SME come to the game, and SME was designed to, he doesn't really still fit anyway. You can throw him in either team, but he's not like the main focus of either of the teams. If they would have started with Maz Kanata as the first conquest unit, we would then have actually had a playable team with Ethano, Quiggold, Kix, and maybe OG Hondo, right? But they started off with SME, and then that means it took 6 months for us to get Mars. And that meant we couldn't really have an effective 2 leaderships because Ethano just wasn't doing enough, right? And of course, nobody really cared about Ethano and Quiggold and Kix and stuff like that. SME and the Skeleton Crew, I think, had a slightly better reception just because Skeleton Crew was a little bit more in people's faces at that time. It was a recently released TV show and it had relatively good reception to it. I quite enjoyed the Skeleton Crew. It wasn't highbrow stuff, it was just good family fun. And I thought I still hope that we get a sequel. But yeah, people just weren't really that impressed with Ethano, Quiggold, and Kix. Turns out they are phenomenally good. Another little bit of bone of contention was these guys were designed to go in the new raid as well, and people didn't like the idea that we had a raid launch and half the factions you couldn't even use. You know what I mean? That we had no pirates that we could use. There was no Relic Delta at the time to sort of assist you through the raid and stuff like that. So people couldn't really field full teams to actually get the benefit out of the raid, and coming off the Naboo raid where people had invested loads and loads of resources to try and make good raid teams, there was obviously quite a lot of anger out in the community saying, well, you know, why have you given us a new raid and you've given pirates 2 teams that we can't even use right now? Turns out that was okay because, you know, we had a bunch of undermans that we could do. You could solo it with characters like Nest and OG Hondo, and then later on the Pirates factions you could shortman with both of them. Like, you can get really good value out of the Pirates faction in general just by going in underman. It's really, really cool actually. But yeah, understandably people were a little bit miffed at first, and then of course we had our next GL, which was GL Hondo. Now GL Hondo, fantastic GL, but people were not wanting, well, I don't want to say everybody. Not everybody was turning their nose up at GL Hondo, but a lot of people were not that impressed. They were like, yeah, okay, I get it, Hondo is cool, but he's not galactic legend worthy. Other people were certainly fighting his corner and thinking he was. It's not just about raw power, it's about their influence and their reach and their impact that they've had on the galaxy as a whole, I guess. Ultimately, he was the GL that we got, and he came out with a bit of a flop. People were not happy because he just, like, at the time, we had all those bulk crons, and he couldn't beat anything. But then the pirate crons came into play. All of a sudden, Hondo, pretty dominant in the meta, one of the best PvP GLs there are right now. So, turns out it's pretty good. Brutus is one of my favorites. His damage output is absolutely nutty. Silvo is a really irritating kit, and Vayne is probably the tankiest unit in the game that's not a galactic legend. He is so hard to put down. Really, really solid faction. I really, really enjoyed this. Then we had the Era of the Piracy Era Battle as well come to the game. Forgot to mention the one with Jedi Master Mace Windu. That's the tier that brought in, you know, the 2,000 crystals for having R9 Mace. That was cool. Really enjoyed that one. For a late game player who has plenty of resources to take things to Relic 9, I say plenty, I don't have infinite resources, but I was focusing heavily on raid investment and focusing heavily on era battles, and it pays off because you get such good rewards. The top tier of the Mace one, of course, gives you 2,000 crystals, and you get good at keypads and your Omicrons and all that sort of good business. Huge, huge. So we had one for Mace. It was the, what was it? The Crimes Against the Republic one. And then the Era of Piracy ones was Tales from the Outer Rim or something like that. That was okay as well. That was pretty easy to underman. You could do that with like 3 units, and you could get the top tier rewards there. So huge bonus there as well. So after that, we had the Era of the Deadly Pursuit, and the community was in a weird place at this point because we just had such like this bell curve in excitement, enjoyment in Galaxy of Heroes, because we started off with the new Bad Batch. People were not that interested, right? But then we had Revenge of the Sith, We had the dark side clones. You know, we had new legendary Jedi Master Mace Windu come to the game, and player base just absolutely peaked. New raid, dark side clones, Lord Vader lifters, all that's good business. And then the pirates came in and people dropped off. People got annoyed with the raid because there were so few teams that they could use. It fixed itself in the long run. And then after that, instead of like trying to lean into some big sort of community sentiment move, maybe get the player base engaged again, we had these really weird releases. The era of the Deadly Pursuit felt like it was the era of just like random stuff go burr. You know, like we had the Rogue One and the Rebel B-Wing. Now, personally, the Rogue One to me righted a very annoying injustice that existed in the world. I hated the Punishing One from the day it came out. It was way too powerful, and it completely invalidated the Profundity as a counter to the Executor, more or less completely invalidated it. When the Profundity was designed to counter the Executor. That was its whole purpose. It's more expensive, it was the newer fleet, and it just got completely pooped on by the Punishing One. So CG did an Uno reverse and released the Rogue One, which just completely pooped on the Executor again. And balance was restored. Now, I do think that the meta was better before both of these ships were in the game, but at least I'm happy now that the Profundity serves a purpose again, and it actually does some good stuff, because the Rogue One was really, really positive. Then we had the Rebel B-Wing. This, like, I didn't see this coming at all. It was like, what? We're getting a B-Wing? It's lifting Home 1? And now Home 1 is actually, honestly, quite terrifying if you're not ready for it, if you're not prepared for it. The Rebel B-Wing came in, and it just turned into the Home 1 into, like, just turn 1 ult. I'm going to take 72 turns before you can do anything. Better hope you've got something meta to take me down. It was actually really cool. I like it. Now we now understand it. We now understand how to counter it, what to use it with. But when it came out, it was kind of fun. And then we had Forlom and Zuckuss. And people have been asking over the years for us to get Forlom and Zuckuss and to eventually get their bounty hunter ship as well. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the something. But I think that generally people were so confused, especially after the pirates and everything. They were like, we were expecting something really cool and we get this for the end of the year. And then they throw in the Stranger as the conquest character. And people were like, what is going on? What is this group of characters? Obviously, there was a little bit of anxiety maybe in the society where they were like, hang on, we've got Stranger. Are we getting Acolyte content? There was a lot of people, at least from what I saw in the community on my comment sections and in my Discord and various Discord servers that I am in, that people were worried we were going to get Acolyte content, people, you know, threatening to leave because they didn't want to support Acolyte content, stuff like that. People threatened to leave over everything, but, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. Turns out the Stranger's kit is phenomenal. Looks really, really fun, and I can't wait for us to finally unlock him after the end of this conquest. I am very much looking forward to that. And we had the Era Battle Analysis Paralysis, which turned out to be pretty easy to get through. It was hard at first, but as soon as we got Zuckuss into the game, it became a bit of a walk. People could get through it pretty quickly and get good rewards. So it was kind of a confusing time. It was kind of a confusing time. And then CG did what was probably their most divisive thing that they've done in 10 years. They did a community check-in and announced a closed playtest for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I was very, very fortunate to be part of this closed playtest, to act as a go-between between the community and the devs and try to work with both parties to make changes to the game in a positive manner, right? This was about Relic Delta. And this blew people's brains away. And, you know, we're still seeing repercussions of Relic Delta. On the whole, I'm okay with it now, but if you remember the very first announcement for Relic Delta, I have never seen so many fires. I have never seen so many pitchforks being hurled at CG, because the first iteration of it was absolutely god-awful. It was absolutely god-awful. You were doing, like, if you had a Relic Delta of 5 and above, you were doing 95% less damage to those units, right? And you were taking, you know, 95% more damage. Thankfully, with the closed playtest that we were on, and a lot of videos and a lot of discussions with a lot of people and a lot of playtesting, we managed to walk those numbers into what we have in the game today. Are they perfect? No, probably not. Are they about as good as they're going to get? Yes, I think so. This closed play test, I think, was a good acid test, a litmus test, to see whether or not CG can work with the community to make some changes to the game in a positive way and hopefully pick things up and fix things sooner than they would otherwise. I think it was a success personally. I don't know what you guys think. There was a lot of anger at the time, a lot of confusion, a lot of remarks getting thrown around, a lot of people thinking that, you know, it was just like a surface deep thing, that we weren't actually changing anything, or that CG wasn't being transparent, and they had an idea of where they wanted to be anyway, and they just gave out fake numbers and all this sort of... I get people's skepticism about it, but ultimately CG did show that they were open to discussion. They made changes. It positively impacted us, and we found stuff before it went live and all this sort of business. Obviously, when it did go live eventually, there was still a bunch of mistakes and stuff like that. I think they launched with the wrong version of the damage split once they went in with V4 instead of V5 or V6. I can't remember now. But all in all, Delta wasn't actually the biggest thing that people were going to get angry about when it comes to releases for the year. Because after Delta dropped, we all kind of got completely sideswiped, and this part confused me completely. It's like, we had this several week long playtest for Relic Delta to try and get it to land in a good place, and CG drops the error of the anniversary. And the error of the anniversary, at first when it came out, was huge. It was absolutely huge. The community went nuts. We're getting a new game mode. We're getting some amazing new characters, a new Darth Vader that looks absolutely badass from the end of the Kenobi series. We're getting a Stormtrooper Luke. We were getting, you know, Yoda and Chewbacca, IG-90, Asajj Ventress. They were like really cool characters, and a new game mode to go on top of it. It's like, wow. Turns out though that Coliseum, the new game mode that dropped, wasn't, you know, as great as it could possibly be. When it first came in, it was absolutely riddled with bugs, absolutely chocked to the brim full of cheaters who were cheating the system to get the rewards. The rewards were not getting sent out correctly. The rewards then got named incorrectly. The games were crashing constantly. Literally bugs as long as my arm. Oh, I forgot Spider Legs Maul as well, because Spider Legs Maul is absolutely cool. That's just huge, dude. So really cool characters marred by a really, really poor release of the Coliseum system. And of course, the new segregation system that we've got for error units and legacy units. People are still upset by this system, and it, you know, to be honest, rightfully so, I imagine, because now we have all these characters that we can't use in the normal part of the game. It's now more expensive to, you know, star up characters and get good use out of them. We can only use them in Coliseum, and these frankly dull, what do they call them? Error challenges. We got rid of galactic challenges. We got error challenges where we can do, you know, stuff in like the most highbrow, it's just like this game mode. This is not a game mode. This is literally just an investment check. It's like, have you increased your error levels enough to actually do something versus these guys? If so, congratulations. There's no nuance to this. It's just uninspired. And I get it, what they were trying to do. They were trying to lower the amount of time that we spend in game. Galactic challenges used to be the thing. We used to get them 3 times a week, right? And we'd go in, I think it was 3 times a week, twice a week. And we'd go in and we'd have like 10 different battles that we got to do. Now we just get this one error challenge once every fortnight after the mark year's ended. This lasts a week. You try and get your, you know, error currency over here. It wasn't good. And funnily enough, this is like the first time in Galaxy of Heroes' existence that I've heard people say that they miss galactic challenges. I never used to hear people say, oh, I always used to test my teams in galactic challenges. It was the best sandbox mode that we had. I wish we could have galactic challenges. No, I remember when people are just like, I hate galactic challenges. I never play them. I think it's one of those things that you always hear the complaints, you never hear the praise, you know? So yeah, error challenges, big. Coliseum, largely. You know, I will say this about Coliseum. as we do progress through the era system and we get more and more characters and the levels get higher, it does become more enjoyable. The problem is it takes too long to be fun, and by the time it is fun, people are fed up with the game mode. You know, like in theory, it sounded really cool. In theory, it sounded cool. We've got rotating bosses that we can fight once a day. We get really good rewards. We get Relic 10 to the game. That was another huge thing, especially with Delta being a thing. And I still maintain, next year we are getting Relic 11. Mark it down in your calendar. It's happening, guys. I don't know, 6 months' time, maybe. I don't have any confirmation from CG on that, guys. I'm just reading the tea leaves there. I know people think I'm crazy, but I think I'm not. So yeah, like in theory, having like single player raid bosses essentially that rotate every day for us to play in was a great idea. It's like, yeah, that's cool. Let's go in and do that, especially because it doesn't take long. You know, you go in, you're done in like a minute. You only need to do one battle a day. The problem with it was the lack of transparency. That wasn't the only problem with it. One of the problems that I had with it is the lack of transparency that CG had around the error leveling system. Okay, we had to rely on data mines. I don't know why we did all this testing on Relic Delta and we did nothing. We heard nothing about this Coliseum game mode and, you know, get our feedback on how it feels to play and stuff like that. So this was the part that really bothered me, is that even though CG said in their announcement that you could get to error level 65 for free, you can still pay your way early. But there are so many people that spent money because they thought that's the only way that you can do it. Right? The only way that you can level up your units is by spending money. And I feel like that was a little bit duplicitous of CG, and I don't like it as a business practice. We spend a lot of money, guys. You know, playing this game, we do spend a lot of money. You know, more so than you would spend on your AAA game, a lot of people. You know, I spend more in a month on this game than I do on normal, you know, conventional gaming, as they say. But I'm a little bit of an outlier as I'm a content creator and stuff like that. You know, to me, it's a business expense and that sort of business, you know. But I did not like this approach. I did not like this approach. And the amount of dollars that it added to CG, it was a very lucrative thing for them to do, but it almost feel like a little bit like you're selling your soul. So I did not like this. A lot of people did not like this. And then the game mode turned into be this buggy, abusable mess with loads of the leaderboards constantly full of, you know, hackers, essentially. I don't know if that's still true. I haven't checked. No, Oxo, I know Oxo. He's in my guild. Yeah, people were just gaming the system and going all the way to the top with no investment, right? They were cheating. But this guy has obviously just got the investment. He's got all high error levels and high units. And it's just, yeah. Coliseum was not the biggest thing in terms of popularity. And then, of course, we had the segregation. So error and standard units, bad news bears. We had Relic 10 come to the game. Honestly, I don't mind Relic 10. It doesn't really do anything. Like, Relic 10 has a minimal impact on the game at this time. In the future, I'm sure it will have a bigger impact, especially when Relic 11 comes out. And basically, we'll see the jaws widen for Relic Delta. That's when it's going to be a problem. It's less about, like, the stats that you get. It's less about the mastery and all that sort of business. What really matters is having a higher ceiling on Relic levels opens up the game to higher levels of Relic Delta, and that's where it's going to be important. And eventually, I fully expect next year at some point we will have a legendary event or a galactic legend that requires one Relic 10 unit, right? And we're going to have to go ahead and invest in that if we want to unlock. The other thing that I do want to say, the last thing that I want to touch on in this system is the mall setup over here. Now, the mall setup is just, it's not a great way to do things, in my opinion. We've got this new Spider Legs mall. We have the unlock requirements. I believe it should still be in the newsletter. Let's have a look to see if it's still in the newsletter. Yeah, here we go. So this system over here, this was such a double-edged sword, because we had this new legendary unlock style and new era system where you can unlock the legendary unit at 4 stars, which is huge. That's such a good thing to happen to the game, especially the way that Conquest works and Conquest feats and stuff like that. This really played into, hey, you could get it early. The problem was the error level requirements that they put in, right? So Tier 1, 4 stars, you can get at error level 45. This was absolutely fine. Everybody can get to error level 65 for free without spending any money. You can get these 4-star characters to 4 stars without spending money. If you've got the crystals to do it, you buy the crystal packs, boom, bish bash bosh, real good nosh, you could have yourself a 4-star Maul hate-fueled. Same really goes for tier 2, because 5 stars. 5 stars is still doable, very difficult, free to play. But if you've got enough crystal income and you hoard enough crystals and you spend it and you get good pulls and stuff like that, you can theoretically get yourself a 5-star Maul hate-fueled for free, right? It's only era level 55, which doesn't need any more additional spending. What gets iffy is when you get to the 6 stars and the 7-star unlock. The 6-star requires era level 70, which if you have whaled to 6 stars, you should actually be okay. You should actually be okay, because this should translate into good performance in Coliseum, and, you know, eventually you'll actually get them to level 70 without any additional money. The tricky part is down here. Era level 85 for the 7-star unlock for Maul. This is mandated spending, because it doesn't matter how much you whale to get your 7-star characters, and it doesn't matter how well you perform inside of the Coliseum. You will not be able to get the materials to go from level 80 to 85 without opening up your wallet again. All right, so inside the store, the era store, this one over here, the Mark 8 materials, these two, absolutely impossible to get in the game without spending. There's no other way to get them. Now, I don't know if CG is going to change this and they're going to put it down for crystals later on like they've done with the other ones. But essentially, if you want to get 6 characters, you need all 6 marquees to level 85 to unlock Maul. You need to buy this pack 5 times. It's basically an extra $100. An extra $100 on top of the, you know, roughly $100 per character you've already spent. Right, 100, 150, depending on the character, and if you buy the episode pass and all that sort of good gubbins. So you could easily spend over $1,000, basically, in an era just to get a journey guide character. That was that's a bad move. I want to withhold judgment to see if this pack becomes available for crystals later on. If it does, like the others have, as we've progressed, you know, these packs have slowly moved down here so that you can purchase them with crystals. Sure, it's expensive and stuff, but maybe we'll even get this 81 to 95 pack available for crystals at the end of the era. Hopefully while Maul is still available and around to actually go and engage with, because I don't really want to have to drop an extra $100 on the character. It's made me change the way that I think about marquees and whether or not it's good for me to invest. So that's kind of like another little bit of needle in there around the era system. Era system, not popular, guys, not popular. I do want to take a jog back real quickly and talk about something, though. We did eventually get a new era battle for GL Ahsoka Tano. This was a great move. This was a great move. They retroactively gave one to Glap. It took them a year, basically, but there we go. We got some good era battle rewards, rewarding people, giving them shards of the Spectre units, and at the top tier, if you've got an R9 Glat, you can get yourself really good rewards, Gerda keypads, droid brains, all that good business, and it's a monthly recurring event. So well done. That's another win in the books, I think. And then of course we had the wonderful capping off of the year with the Datacrons. The Datacrons and the Omega and Vadercron issue, creating an unkillable team. Thankfully, we got it fixed immediately, which I don't think would have gotten fixed as quickly as it had if I hadn't made that video. I'm not taking credit for it. I just don't think it would have been fixed quite as quickly. We got it fixed immediately, basically. It didn't take weeks, it didn't take months, it didn't hang around until the end of the Datacron set. It was setting itself up to literally destroy GAC and Territory War. Thankfully, that got fixed, but of course we had the other issue with our Datacrons, where CG decided to nerf one of the Datacrons. For Pillar of War, the Attacker-cron is quite literally like ridiculously overpowered and broken, or it was at least. Now it's kind of meh, it's still okay, not amazing anymore. It was way too broken. We were one-shot, I was using Padawan Obi-Wan to one-shot an entire Pirate King Hondo team. It was great. But CG in such a bizarre take, people were away for the holidays and they decided to nerf the Datacron, which is fine. I don't mind the nerf. Don't mind the nerf at all. But they nerfed the Datacron. They then crushed everybody's Datacrons, all of their Datacrons, and didn't give them the reroll mats, and didn't consider that some people spent tens of thousands of crystals I have friends that spent 40,000 crystals re-rolling Datacrons. Another friend, Garthrick, who spent 80,000 crystals re-rolling Datacrons. And all of that gets, like, disappeared in the blink of an eye. And CG overcorrected, in my opinion, in their make good. They essentially gave everybody their crons back. They re-rolled all the Datacrons. And then they've given everybody basically infinite Datacron reroll materials, because they gave us, I've got 250,000 Mark III reroll mats, and to reroll it costs 1 data cache now. So everybody's, for this next set, is going to have perfect crons, absolutely perfect crons, and then we don't get the mats dusted at the end, at least not for the reroll mats, okay? So it feels like this choice here, this correction, definitely an overcorrection, but for some reason it inadvertently harms the people that spend the most money on the game. Because normally having like 30 Datacrons at level 9 with really well-rolled mods, perfect level 369, that's something that whales pay the privilege for. Not necessarily me, I don't pay for Datacrons. I do a lot of re-rolling of energy and stuff like that, but I never buy crystals. It's just like, it's how I manage my economy, basically. But there are whales that spend boatloads of money re-rolling to get perfect Datacrons to have an advantage. And now everybody has basically got carte blanche, free season hunting to get 30 perfect level 9 Datacrons. Is wild, absolutely wild. So we're going to have some weird territory wars and GACs coming up, where everybody's got, like, you know, 400% armor penetration, 100% health, 100% protection, that sort of nonsense. It's going to be a weird situation, but maybe people will come around to Datacrons and figure out, actually, they're a lot of fun to use, especially when you've got carte blanche to have complete free rerolls of Datacrons and stuff and get them perfect and things like that. It was just a weird year, guys. It was a weird year. Overall, I want to say that this year was pretty good overall. And I think going into next year, if they can build on the foundations that they've set, maybe do some adjustments to the error system to make it a little bit better, hopefully not completely balls up with this error PvP mode that they're thinking of doing. I still don't like the idea of that, but overall, this year was actually pretty good, and it shows that CG is willing to invest in this game to keep it running for another 27 years. Which is great, because I like Star Wars games. I like playing this game, and frankly, I like being a content creator, and this game gives me the opportunity to do that. If this game died tomorrow, I would have to find something else to make content on, and I'm sure I'd give it a try. Alright guys, I've probably missed a whole host of stuff that happened throughout the year. Please let me know in the comments section down below. Give this video a like. I've been talking for way too long. I'm not looking forward to editing this video. But I love y'all. Have a great holiday season, and I'll see you all very soon. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.